And welcome to the Action Network NFL podcast. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, and it's been a minute, but we are back, and I got my guy, the Prime Minister of Degenerate Nation, Stucky here. I got my guy, Sean Kerner here. We are going to talk some AFC win totals on this pod. We'll go with the AFC East and the AFC North. Fellas, how y'all doing, man? It's good to be back together.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to get back with you, Evan. It's the grind is officially here. I love the preparation part of it. It's such a fascinating league. You have 32 teams approaching this in 32 different ways and trying to crack who's gonna make a jump this year and who's gonna take a step back. It's just always a fascinating process. So I always enjoy it before we actually get into the grind. So I'm excited to kick things off here.
Oh yeah, I think Sean, you probably have the most sleep out of the three of us on this pod, because I know Stucky's going on like 40 hours, and I'm somewhere in the 24 range. I definitely haven't slept last night. So how you feel?
I don't know about the whole sleep thing. I am running all of our DFS preseason projections, so that's a whole other full-time job. But happy to be on with Stucky. I feel like I'm usually listening to you guys in season, so it's always fun being on with Stuck, and looking forward to talking AFC win totals.
Oh yeah, and for all you guys out there, we'll be doing the same show every Thursday with our Sunday six pack and all that good stuff. So just gonna start getting the palate wet, talking some win totals. We'll have episodes on every division. We'll go two at a time. Let's start with the AFC East. I'll jump right in. Stucky, I'm going to start with the best team in the AFC East last year, one of the best teams in the AFC, depending on which metric you look at, and that's the Buffalo Bills. When you see Josh Allen make that kind of jump, you see the team perform as good as they did, pretty much almost got to the Super Bowl. I mean, they came within maybe a bad half of going to the Super Bowl. Do you think regression first with this Buffalo team, or is this a team that you think is going to continue to play at the top of their class?
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, when this is a team that I normally would say, there's maybe some regression coming after how much of a jump Josh Allen has made in each of the past two seasons. But from everything I've seen, I think it continues. And there's other reasons why. I love this staff. It's one of the smartest staffs, I think, in the NFL. Mm-hmm. A lot of continuity there as well, but just, their use of motion, 4 wide receiver sets, play action, just everything that they do is smart on both ends. And you can look over the past two seasons after the bye week. I mean, they put Dable up in the box 2 years ago. Last year, their defensive adjustments were amazing. They changed some of the alignments of the linebackers, and their defense went whoop, and their offensive line really gelled in the second half of the season. This year, their bye week is week 7. So I expect a similar, okay, let's tweak this, and an upswing in the second half again. You get Starlou Taylor back, and I think that's huge because he can really eat as that one technique. He can move Ed Oliver over. They addressed some of their, they had a lack of edge rush. I know Jerry Hughes is still productive, but they needed some more juice. And I'm a big fan of Rosso, and I think they're deeper there. So guys like Jerry Hughes are going to not have to play as many snaps. I know their safeties are getting older, but you have a number one corner in his prime, all of those weapons. There's just so much to like about this staff. And Josh Allen's progression, I mean, he's proved everyone wrong. I think that this team is on the upswing. They're a legit Super Bowl contender. It's one of the few teams that actually show value in their over. But there's a lot of uncertainty in this division, which we'll get to, quarterback uncertainty. So I don't really love betting the win total. I took a shot with them. I found a 14-1 to win the Super Bowl. I think anything 12-1 or over. I think the Bills are going to be a player. I think the coaches that's going to learn a lot from what they did in the playoffs. I think for as smart as they are, they kind of got a little gun shy against the Chiefs. But that's a big learning experience. I think they're going to be right there when it's all said and done.
So Sean, where are you on this 11.5 for Buffalo? At BetMGM, it's juiced minus 145 to the under.
Yeah, so I'm projecting them right around 11.5 games. I think 11.5 is a coin flip. So I do see some value on the over here at plus 120. Stucky mentioned it, but I don't expect too much regression from Josh Allen this year because of the continuity. They were able to keep Brian Dable. I think their deep playoff run kind of help them retain him. I know the Chargers wanted to potentially sign him as a head coach, but he's still there this year. I think that's huge for Josh Allen. I think Dable really put him in a position to succeed last year. They had the second highest early down pass rate in game neutral situations. Josh Allen had the most play action dropbacks last year. I think that was huge for his year 3 breakout. I mean, obviously Stephon Diggs, he has 4 quality wide receivers right now, and they play the second most 4 wide formation. So I think that all those elements are still there. So that's why I don't see much of a drop off for Allen this year. When it comes to their 13-3 record last year, if you look at their plus minus differential Pythagorean win, expectations, it was around 10.5. So it looks like they may have gotten a little bit lucky, but I like looking at percentage of game time leading, tied, and trailing. And if you look at those splits, they actually played like a 13.1 win team. So I think maybe if they got off to an early lead, they kind of let teams come back. So this team played a little bit better than the 13-3 record last year. I love getting them over 11.5. Like we'll talk about the rest of the division, it could be getting stronger, but I still think the Bills are the cream of the crop when it comes to this division.
Yeah, I'd also add this is the team that won its division, that made a run in the playoffs, won its division. This year, I have them based on my power ratings with the second easiest schedule in the NFL. So you'll have a tougher schedule this year. That's not the case. And I mean, Josh Allen, 2 of the criticism going into last year against man defenses, against pressure. From an EPA per play perspective, he went from 27th to 4th against man, from 25th to 5th against 4 or more guys rushing. So all of his numbers across the board improved. I think it's sustainable. You lose John Brown, but you add Emmanuel Sanders. There's weapons everywhere. And Dable's just a brilliant play caller. This is a smart, scheming staff. A lot of continuity. There's a lot to like about the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, Stuck. I was just going to bring up that schedule because I think we're late enough into the preseason at least where you start to look at the schedule and things could happen. There could be injuries down the stretch, but you still got to look at the schedule and say, wow, this is not really that daunting at all. I mean, we got Pittsburgh, Miami, Washington, Houston. KC will be a tough one in Tennessee, both on the road, but then Miami, Jacksonville, Jets, Indy, Saints, Patriots, Bucks. That's a tough one. Panthers, Patriots, and Falcons and Jets. So really you have those games against the 2 Super Bowl teams, a game in Tennessee. And outside of those 3, I mean, there's 13 very winnable games for the Bills. So I think that you're not going to see like a complete drop off unless, barring injury to Josh Allen or something like that. Because as you mentioned, excellent.
Let's not talk about Mitch Trubisky. That is my nightmare with my Super Bowl future. AFC divisional round. All of a sudden Allen goes out and Mitch Bortles comes in. But yeah, another way to look at the Bills is if you look at after their bye, their interior offensive line and their defense was a mess the first half of the year. They fixed all of that. And there was still injuries on the defensive side of the ball with Milano, who's now healthy. Their starting nose tackle didn't play last year. So I'm high on the Bills.
So as we continue our AFC win totals podcast sponsored by BetMGM, let's go to an up and coming team, I think, in this division. And that is the Miami Dolphins. At BetMGM, their win total 9.5. The over juice to -140. Sean, I'll start with you this time. What are you thinking on Miami coming into year 2 with Tua Tagovailoa?
Yeah, I mean, whether they go over this 9.5 win total all depends on Tua improving in year 2. I like to look at various metrics for quarterbacks, and Tua, he finished right around like 29th to 32nd for most of them out of 43 quarterbacks that qualified last year, which was not great. But if you compare them to rookies ever since 2010, he was actually above average, finishing anywhere from 13th to 18th in these metrics I like to look at. So there is some hope there. And I think we can forgive him for various things for 2020. He was coming off that major hip injury. They didn't really have much of an offseason, which could be tougher for a rookie. It's possible the offense under Changeli was tailored more towards Ryan Fitzpatrick. So throwing Tua out there mid-season was not great. And then they added Will Fuller, Jalen Waddle. We love those guys for fantasy. I think if Tua doesn't have a year 2 leap, then it's a major concern. So I think if you're expecting a year 2 leap, go with the over here. I think this total is a bit high. They do have the easiest strength of schedule, according to my power ratings. So that's probably why it is a bit higher. But I still lean on the under here. I need to see it from Tua first. And this offensive line is a major question mark. So
waiting for you to mention that.
Yeah. So, a guy like Tua, some of the reports at camp, he hasn't been great under pressure. We'll see, but this offensive line could be an issue. And plus they're coming off a season where they had a +9 turnover differential. Obviously, you expect them to be a little bit better in that department with, arguably the best cornerback duo in the league. They play a ton of man coverage, but still it's going to be hard to repeat that +9 differential this year. So they could take a step back. So that's why I'm leaning towards the under here.
Dougie, talk to me. Miami.
I love the under here. I think you would know, Raymond. I'm not buying into Tua yet. I think he's going to be great. He has all the tools. I don't think he's there yet. And this is, as Sean said, last year was a COVID year and he was coming off surgery, right? And he was rotating in and out of the lineup with Fitzpatrick, checking down way too much, just not looking comfortable. Part of that is the offensive line. So they got these weapons that can stretch the field. Is he even going to have enough time? Is he actually going to throw downfield? He has 5.3 air yards per completion, just a lot of checkdowns and timid throws. So I think that they're a year away. This young offensive line, which was just rookies all over and young kids, I think, after this year, Tua gets a full year as a starter. I think next year is the year. And the defense benefited, as Kerner said, just a ton of turnover luck. They caused the turnover on 16% of opponents' drives, which led the NFL. Elite special teams. I'm not sure if they can repeat that. And then another thing with their schedule, they don't have a bye till week 14. And it's a pretty exhausting early season schedule. You're going to New England, then home against Buffalo, then out to Vegas, then back home for the Colts, then, at Tampa, then you're heading over to London, back to Atlanta. So, and then you don't have a bye till week 14. So I also don't know what the philosophy will be on offense. I know they got rid of Changeli, and a lot of people like that, but they have 2 offensive coordinators. One was a run game coordinator, and one was a ex-tight ends coach. And Charlie Fry is apparently the one that's talking to Tua. So I don't know what the philosophy is, or if there's going to be, some kind of butting of heads there. But, and the defense, I think, fortunate. They lost some pieces that I think are important, including Van Noy. I don't think they'll be as good, and they do struggle against the run. And, if you look at some of the metrics, they were about an average defense, yards per drive, about average, but turnovers just really helped them out. I don't think they get that same luck. I think they struggle to get to 9 wins. I like this under. I make it like 8-6, 8-7. So I like under 9.5.
Yeah, Miami.
Another thing, Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick to bail you out this year. And,
it's true.
Right.
And you want to add another lucky thing. Fitzpatrick last year, and we'll get to Washington, #1 in the NFL under pressure.
Yep.
I mean, that's usually Mahomes' stat. So I mean, just some of the throws. Miami was a very fortunate team last year. I know they're well coached. I love Flores. They're headed in the right direction. I just think they're a year away.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa's PFF passer rating under pressure 39.5. That's 34th in the league. When he throws a touchdown against pressure this year, it'll be his first of his career. So that concerns me with the offensive line, because I think you're projecting a year, like a big leap for Jackson and Davis to really be formidable tackles on the outside. I think you still have question marks at center. There's really nowhere on the line that you feel great about. So that's one thing I think when you kind of going back and forth on these win totals, because I certainly think Miami has a lot of upside. I just don't know maybe if a win total is the right bet for them. I think, betting them to do something like make the playoffs or, even like a long shot division winner might be better, because I think they have upside, but I just don't know if I trust like the median projection for teams with O-line struggles. It's the same reason we'll talk about it in another pod, but I'm not in on the Giants or anyone like that. Like, it's just when a team has an O-line issue, it's the thing that I feel like never gets properly accounted for in a lot of projections and in a lot of the market. So Miami's not one that I'm touching for the over, but I do think the team is going in the right direction. speaking of teams going in the right direction, New England was for about 2 decades, and then Tom Brady wins a Super Bowl with another team. They get left with Cam Newton, but now they got Mac Jones stuck. The Patriots are also at 9.5, but unlike Miami, the Patriots win total is actually juiced to the under at -115. So slight juice. What are your thoughts on New England at 9.5?
Yeah, it's a fascinating team, and it's one of these COVID situations where it's unprecedented. They're getting a lot of players back, that opted out that you see throughout the NFL. They went on a shopping spree. Dollar Bill went out. Usually they build through the draft. They've been awful in the draft for the last 5+ years. They went out and just spent money. Who'd they bring in? Jonnu Smith, Henry, Brown, Aguilar. I mean, it goes on and on. Judon, Van Noy, Mills. I mean, they went on a spending spree. You could have expected. I mean, they were bad last year. Their defense was bad. The offense was bad, but they lost Brady. They had, a number of opt-outs on the defensive side of the ball. I think it's a tough team to crack because of all these new pieces. Belichick will have them together as much as any coach can, but I think it really all comes down to three positions, right? Stephon Gilmore, unhappy. He's, getting older. He's getting to that age where a corner drop off. So if he can remain elite, because I think J.C. Jackson's actually one of the most overrated corners in the NFL, gets a ton of picks, very fortunate. But, I mean, this is a guy last year gave up, I think, 4 touchdowns in 4 games as a number 1 corner. Gilmore gave up 4 in the last 37 before that. So I don't. If Gilmore can stay elite and play, if Brown at that right tackle position is motivated back in New England, that offensive line is going to be great. They're going to be able to run the ball. They have great tight ends now. So it all comes back to the quarterback position. If you believe that, number one, if you believe that Mac Jones is going to end up starting and you're a big Mac Jones buyer, I'm not for year one, then you would obviously buy this Patriots team. The defense will be good. They upgraded the front 7. The secondary, regardless, will be good. But if you believe that Cam Newton will start, was last year more to do with an injury, or is Cam Newton now washed and past his prime? And it doesn't matter how much help you got in the passing game. It doesn't matter how well you can run it. Teams are going to stack the box, and that's really going to limit their ceiling. So this is a team, if everything comes together and works, and, say Cam Newton was hurt last year and now is healthy, and you get a flashback to some, prime Cam, the upside for this team is huge. So, I project them at 9 wins. So I don't really see any value in the win total. And I love the Bills, so I'm not going to do this, but I could see the argument for taking them, to win the division, or, taking a flyer on them to win the AFC. So there's a lot of upside if all these parts work, but it's a lot of things that we're saying if about.
So you have the Patriots at 9 and the Dolphins at 8-7. So you're actually projecting the Patriots number 2 for the division.
Say that again.
You have the Patriots at, you said 9 wins, right? And the Dolphins around 8.7. So you're actually projecting New England as number 2. So you're a little the market is Miami number 2. You're New England number 2. Sean, what about you?
But I'm so much higher on the Bills that I don't see value. And I think the Bills are just so much further ahead than New England. And I should admit that part of my Bills projection being higher is that I'm lower on Miami and New England. There's some correlation there since they play so much. But get Gerner.
Yeah, so I have Miami number 2 here. Despite I have the Patriots power rated a little bit higher, but Miami, like I said, they have the easiest strength of schedule. So that's my win total for them is a bit higher. Either way, if you favor either the Dolphins or Patriots to finish second, I like that BetMGM has a straight forecast where you could take Bills and Patriots to finish 1 and 2 at plus 240. I think that might be the way to go, because I think the Jets have the 4th slot locked up, and then it'll be either the Patriots or Dolphins finishing second with the Bills in first. So that's kind of the way I've been approaching this division. But the Patriots should be a lot better this year. They did spend a lot of money, over 170 million. But I thought they overpaid for a ton of players. Not only did they overpay for Jonnu Smith, they also overpaid for Hunter Henry. So the offense will be better, but it's still going to be fairly mediocre. I think having Mac Jones there does raise the floor of this offense. If Cam Newton is washed, I think Mac Jones can be, solid as a rookie. So it's going to at least provide them with a higher floor. Last year they missed the second most games. If you factor in, the COVID opt-outs. They're going to see better injury luck, so to speak, this year. So it's going to be a much better team, but 9.5 just seems a little too high. So I am leaning the under here. Although I don't like betting on the under for, both the Dolphins and Pats. I think you kind of have to pick one. And that's why I'm kind of leaning on the Dolphins under right now and passing on the Patriots total.
Yeah, the Patriots are a stay away from me because I'm not betting the over on a team that's going to be quarterbacked by either a guy who averaged 177 pass yards per game last year or a rookie. I'm not going to do it, but I do think their defense is going to be excellent. I do think their O-line will be decent to very good, actually. So my issue is with the skill players, and New England, Belichick, they can probably win without the best group of skill players. So that's kind of working in their favor, but I think this is a mediocre team until proven otherwise. I think it's going to be really good on defense, but I don't see Cam bouncing back. I think Cam bouncing back is maybe, 220 yards per game instead of, 180, and maybe he actually throws double-digit touchdowns this year. So I think Mac Jones, you're kind of betting on him if you're going over. I think he gives them a higher ceiling at quarterback just because he's a better pure passer. I think the offense and the acquisitions were kind of made to tailor to him, but this is more a team that I think I want to bet week to week. Just bet. I feel like there's going to be a lot of unders, Patriot unders. So I'm just going to bet them that way. I think the win totals will stay away. The final team in the AFC East is the New York Jets. BetMGM has their win total at 6.5. The under is up to -160. This was one of my favorite unders earlier in the offseason, but it was not juiced like this. Now it seems like everyone's kind of caught on. So there's probably no value here. But Sean, how are you feeling about this Jets team at 6.5? It's not a high bar to clear, but they just lost Lawson. I mean, things aren't looking that great.
Yeah, they're not looking that great. I'm projecting them closer to 6. So when you factor in the juice, this is a pretty good line, I think. So I'm staying away. But the needle is pointing up on the Jets as an organization. Moving on from Adam Gase to Robert Saleh is a huge upgrade, in my opinion. Zach Wilson has the potential to be a really good quarterback. I love that they added Corey Davis and Elijah Moore in the draft to give him some weapons to work with. But he was a little bit of a late bloomer in college, so I think his rookie season will be up and down. But overall, I love the direction this franchise is going. The Jets defensive front was loaded until unfortunately Carl Lawson had that season-ending injury, and I think that's going to really hurt the defense. They're really weak at corner, so Saleh's going to play a lot of zone heavy cover 3 defense to kind of take the pressure off them. But you do need a good pass rush. But with Carl Lawson on the shelf now, I think this team's going to really struggle. If anybody can figure out, maybe it's Robert Saleh. But I'm staying away from this win total. I think it's correctly priced. And like I said, they're probably a lock to finish last in this division. So I've been kind of attacking the straight forecasts of Bills, Dolphins, Pats, and Jets. I think it's plus 250. I think it's going to be a pretty straightforward division in that regard.
Yeah, on the Jets?
I agree. I think it's going to be a rough year for the Jets. I actually project them at 5-3. The good that they have is they have a bye week 6. This is how hard it is for me to say good things about them. They have 9 home games, and one of their road games is in London. I do agree that this is headed in the right direction, getting Gase out there, getting Saleh in, but there are massive, not only do you have a rookie quarterback, there are massive scheme changes. I mean, you're going to have Saleh come in with a 4-3, wide 9, aggressive defense, and you need great defensive ends to get pressure. Who's started without Lawson's out? 33-year-old Vinny Curry is going to start at defensive end and be required to get pressure. I mean, CJ Mosley is coming back to play the Mike. He hasn't played in 2 years. I mean, who knows what you're getting from there? And they have the worst corners in the NFL. So, you're not getting pressure and you don't have corners. It's just a recipe for disaster. The offensive line should be a little better. Still not going to be good. It's not great for a rookie quarterback. Scheme change on the offensive side as well. So I think that they're headed in the right direction, but I think it's going to be a long year for the Jets.
What could actually decide their win total is the last 2 weeks of the season, they play the Bucks and then at Buffalo. So if those teams just kind of cruise and they can be resting guys, maybe the Jets get there. But if the Jets are like, let's say 2 wins away or something coming down, even 1 win away coming down that stretch, and Buffalo and Tampa are playing for real, I mean, it's going to be tough either way. So not one that I recommend. I love the under earlier in the offseason. It's juiced a little high, but if I had to go, I'd still go under here. There's just so much new. When you talk about a new quarterback, new pieces to throw to, a new defense that got weakened. I mean, there's just so much. These teams usually take time to gel, even if it is going in the right direction. I love Zach Wilson. I think he's a talented guy, but there's just too much. And let's face it, every change from Adam Gase is by default an upgrade. So we can't even fully. I mean, we would be saying this about pretty much any coach the Jets could have hired. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like Saleh, yeah, he was good in San Francisco. Hopefully he'll be good here. But bottom line is, this team, Adam Gase set them back, and it's gonna take some time to climb out. So I'd still feel more confident about betting them under, even at the juice, than a team like Miami or a team like New England. Let's go to the AFC North, where we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, we have the Ravens, we have the Browns. I'm going to start with the Browns. The Ravens have the highest, but I think the Browns are the most interesting team here because their win total is 10.5, evenly juiced on both sides. But Stuck, what do you think of the Browns? Are you buying in to the improved defense and Odell Beckham coming back and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are a big regression candidate. I loved, what they're doing, kind of like the Jets. I think it was the right coach in Stefanski, and they actually made the right hires. So and we saw that last year. It's an organization that was down in the dumps that's now in the upward trajectory. But this is a team that got pretty lucky last year to go 11-5. They were outscored by 11 on the season. I think from a DVOA perspective, they were the second worst 11-5 team since 1985. So, I mean, their Pythagorean wins, I think, were 7-7, 7-8. So this is a team that definitely got fortunate. I like some of the additions they made on defense. It's still a defense that I think is going to struggle. They're going to need a lot to happen on the defensive side of the ball for, can a guy like Marvin Wilson step up on the defensive line? Can you have Delpit and Greedy Williams, these LSU guys who have been hurt, can they step up? Because you're going to need either, Newsome, their first round draft pick, or Greedy at one of the cornerback spots, which is a weak area. So I think defense is going to struggle. The offense is going to put up points. They really put Baker Mayfield in opportunities to succeed. They move him out of the pocket. They get him moving. You could see how much more comfortable he is in that scheme. It's a really well-trained staff, and the offensive line is excellent. They have great backs. So they're going to score, but they're going to also give up points. I think they were a bit fortunate last year. I can't believe I'm saying this, but just the hype on the Browns, I think, is a little too much. And this win total, I think, is inflated. I'm closer to 10, and I could see how you could argue that it should be even a little lower. So I would lean under. Easy schedule, and they do have 9 home games, but it's probably a stay away for me. But I think they're a bit overinflated here.
Sean, what do you think about the Browns?
Yeah, similar to Stuckey, where I mean, I don't really have many bad things to say at all about them, which is tough to take the under when you say that. But I think there is a little bit of value on the under here. Stuckey mentioned it, but they managed to win 11 games last year despite minus 11 point differential. Their Pythag wins was 7.7. You're correct, Stuckey. like I said, I like looking at the game time leading, trailing, and tied. And when you look at that, their expected wins was closer to 10. So maybe they weren't as lucky as we think. But I love the moves they made on defense. I think this is one of the most complete rosters in the NFL. And last year they benefited from having the second easiest schedule. I think that tailors into the scheme that Kevin Stefanski wanted, more run heavy scheme, limit the turnovers from Baker. But now that the schedule is closer to league average, I have it as ranked as 19th. It might be a little bit tougher sledding this year. So all those things considered, I'm leaning towards the under here, despite just, I do think this roster is complete, and I don't really have anything bad to say about them, but the numbers don't lie. And when I simulate the season 10,000 times, I'm showing some slight value on the under here.
Yeah, what happened to Cleveland last year? They played the NFC East, and didn't they roll over all four of those teams, if I'm not mistaken? I think they went 4-0 against the NFC East. So
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. So
in fairness to Browns fans, though, what I will say is, they did have some turnover luck. Their special teams are awful, by the way, which could cost them some games. But last year, some of the numbers are really skewed by 3 games. They got absolutely boat raced by Baltimore in the opener. They got trucked by Pittsburgh, and then they lost to the Jets when they had no players available because of COVID. So that's one of the things you have to look at when, how unique last year was. They had a game where they had no receivers when they played the Jets and lost to the Jets. So yeah, maybe they weren't as fortunate as some of the numbers say. I do want to see how this defense works out. It's basically going to be a blown up defense. They could have 7 new starters potentially. The linebackers, I still have questions for. I'm not sure Tack McKinley and Clowney are the answer. So I do have some questions about the defense, but and the special teams. But overall, this is a well-coached team, headed in the right direction. Should carry over a lot of momentum from last year. Really looking forward to their Week 1 matchup against Kansas City.
Yeah, I actually would lean over on the Browns because I think that the defense is going to be improved enough. It was just awful last season. They had no safeties. The secondary was just completely just messed up with all the injuries and everything, and it was just ravaged. But when you look at the offense, it's hard to find a real hole in the offense. You got the O-line of Wills, Batonio, Treader, Wyatt Teller, and Jack Conklin. That's is pretty much as good as it gets on the O-line. And if Baker Mayfield, we talked about this all the time, Stuckey, I feel like on a weekly basis, it's like if Baker Mayfield is protected and he's comfortable and he's not under pressure, the Browns are going to be good. And that's what we started to see happen last year. And that was even a large chunk without Odell Beckham. Don't expect him to miss 9 games again this year. Donovan Peoples-Jones coming on. You got the tight ends. You got the 2 running backs. So they don't need the defense to be even as good as its ceiling, I think, given who they added. They just needed to be a tiny bit better than last year. So I think this Browns team is actually gonna be very, very good. So
Beckham gives them that deep threat to open up the offense even more, which they need. If you want to go down narrative street for something, if you want to nitpick for the offense, it's does Beckham start screaming and cause just a mess on the offense because he's not getting the ball enough, and then everything falls apart. But I think if you think that their offense is going to be better with him out there, you're crazy. I think he's going to really open up the field, and he's going to provide a lot more explosiveness in that offense.
And he's getting the ball. It's hard for him not to get the ball because you're still playing a lot with, it's a running back focused offense. It's a tight end focused offense. Peoples-Jones and Higgins or whoever they put out there, is not really a high target guy. It's just really Beckham and Landry, and those guys are friends. So I don't think you're actually going to see much from Beckham. I think he actually appreciates being on this team and being on a team that's not the Giants. So I'm not expecting it. It's Odell Beckham, so it could happen. It's like Antonio Brown. You never know. But I like this Browns team. It's just hard for me to really find something to nitpick beyond what they did last year. But that was last year. They could have 7.7 Pythagorean wins, but that was last year. The team is a little different this year. So like the Browns. Let's talk about your Ravens, Stuck. Sean, I'll actually go to you first. So I'll let Stuck kind of wrap it up. Ravens at 11.5. The under is juiced to -145. Some injuries in camp, I know, on the offense, things coming together a little slow. What do you think of the Ravens at 11.5 this year?
That line sounds about right. If anything, I'd maybe lean towards the under, but I don't really want to bet against this team because, this defense is loaded up front. It's low in the secondary. I think they could be scary good if Patrick Queen takes a year or two leap. And then I think the offense is going to bounce back in a big way this year. I think Lamar is going to bounce back having, Rashad Bateman, hopefully by week 1, and Sammy Watkins should make, Marquise Brown a really good number 2 wide receiver. I think this offense has a ton of potential. My only concern is the tougher schedule. They had the 3rd easiest schedule last year. This year, it's 11th toughest. We know that Lamar Jackson plays a lot better with a leading game script. So, if they encounter a couple more trailing game scripts, that could hurt them this year. So that's why, if anything, I lead towards the under. But, this team played very good last year. When I look at their game time leading, trailing, and tied metric that I love referencing, they finished closer to a 13-win team last year. As opposed to 11 games. So if anything, they got unlucky by only winning 11 games last year. So this is one of those teams where I might be showing value on the under, but I definitely don't want to bet it because I think this is one of the most complete teams in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm at 11-1, so I don't see any value in the win total here. I mean, last year, look, with Lamar Jackson, he's won an MVP. The Ravens are going to get to the playoffs. They're going to be in the mix, and we'll see if there's one game randomness in the NFL. That's what happens in the playoffs. That's what makes the playoffs so great. If that one game randomness happens this year in the first game, Lamar might not be re-signed. If they win a Super Bowl, he will get $7 billion. That's the way the NFL works. We saw that with Joe Flacco and ended up biting the Ravens for a couple of years. But yeah, I think that last year Lamar Jackson has to get a little better on some of the throws to take his game to the next level. I think adding some of the pieces they did will help, but still one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And that was last year. Some of the offensive woes at times were not on him. There were drops at times. He obviously didn't have the most talented receiver. And the biggest problem, I think, was the offensive line. This is a team that they led the NFL in 3rd down pressure rate 2 years ago. Last year, they were bottom 6 or 7. Their offensive line just fell apart. You had Ronnie Stanley get hurt. They had a center who forgot how to snap the ball.
Oh, yeah. Matt Skura. I remember that.
So the offensive line, I think, is going to be much better this year. And that's going to go. Look, and the Ravens are just a great organization. Two things to mention. And the other special teams are going to be great. I have to mention that Justin Tucker. I have to get my Justin Tucker shout out in. One thing, a couple things that I'll mention. I do still worry about the lack of natural edge rush. Now they blitz as much as anyone in the NFL, and that's how they generate pressure. But there's this guy in the AFC that they can't beat that just eats up the blitz. Name starts with a P or something. So that's my worry. If they run into the Chiefs again, they just can't. That's their whole defensive philosophy, blitz, right? And they have great corners. They can cover in the back end. If Tavon Young is healthy, I don't know if it's just a figment of my imagination at this point. But if he's healthy, he could play in the slot. This is one of the best slot cornerbacks in the NFL 4 decades ago or whenever the last time he played. All reports are rosy right now, but that means you can have Marlon Humphrey, I think, top 2 or 3 corners in the NFL. He could play on the outside where he's much better. He could play anywhere, one of the most versatile corners in the NFL, but he's just a little long and he's not perfect for that slot. If you get him on the outside, Peters on the other side with Tavon Young in the slot, and then you have Queen and, guys like Harrison take that next step in year 2. The defense will be top 2 or 3. Again, could be the best in the NFL. Offensive line is better. This team will be right in the mix. Probably win, anywhere from 10 to 12 games based on a couple coin flips and injury luck. I make it 11-1. No play for me, but they'll be there in the end.
Yeah, it's a team that, the defense is great. They're getting Stanley back. I still think the biggest concern is, like you said, that the edge rush at times, and just, I think the offense I don't really think Sammy Watkins is going to be that big of a help. I know he looks great in camp, but I am worried that, Marquise Brown missed a bunch of time and Bateman is missing time. And Nick Boyle is missing time. So I think that offense is still going to be a little sluggish in the pass game. I think they're still going to have to win ugly, which they will because their defense is so good. But yeah, there's kind of too much of a scenario where they win 10 or 11 instead of the 12 that you need to cover the over. So I would lean under. I think it's a relatively tough division with Cleveland improving. I think Pittsburgh will still be a tough team to play, and they're the third best team, I think, in the division this year. So and the schedule's just tough. So yeah, it's not an over bet for me. A lot of respect for them. They'll be there, but I think there's a certain range of outcomes within that, double-digit expectation that I can't get behind an over. Let's go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is at BetMGM an 8.5 win team. So that means they're projected to go 500. The under is juiced to -160 though. So that really means they're closer to an 8-win team. Stuck. How do you feel about the Steelers? I know last year we were both on that they were being overrated for most of the year. You still feel that way, or has the number come down?
Yeah, I mean, this team is in trouble. And look, last year you were talking about how the Ravens were even, Kerner, you were saying they might have been a little unlucky. Well, they played the Steelers with like their backups and in Pittsburgh and almost won. They were just crushed by COVID. That was another game that the Steelers just pulled out of their ass. I mean, the most fraudulent 11-0 start I've ever seen in my life. And they had the second easiest schedule last year. Per my numbers, they had the second toughest schedule this year. They went 7-2 in one-score games. They recovered 14 of 19 fumbles on offense. They had no rushing attack. The offensive line is it's a disaster right now. And you have a quarterback who's 56 years old, just doesn't really have his fastball anymore. And people don't think of Roethlisberger as, this mobile guy. But as he's older, he used to just extend plays as well as any quarterback. People will be dragging. I mean, he just can't do that anymore. He's getting rid of the ball so quick. The offensive line is a mess. The rushing is best. The defense is going to be good. Look, they're going to be number one in adjusted sack rate. They're going to lead the NFL in sacks. They're going to generate a ton of pressure. But I'm worried about their corner situation. It's a little dicey. They lost two very high contributing corners. Who's going to play in the slot. So I'm worried about the back end of that defense, but it's mainly the offense. The offensive line is a mess. I mean, Trey Turner is going to be starting at guard. I mean, Kendrick Green or J.C. Housemeyer is going to be starting at center because Pouncey's gone. Villanueva is gone. DeCastro is gone. The offensive line is also they're not the same since Munchak left. And this is a team that always had an elite offensive line. And now you have a 39-year-old quarterback doesn't have that anymore. I think they're in trouble. It's, the salary cap is really catching up to them. I don't know. Maybe Clem is a brilliant mastermind that can fix this offensive line, but I don't see it. Hayden, he's 32. I mean, if he has a drop off and then you have Cam Sutton and Justin Lane are your other two starting cornerbacks. It's not pretty. And the schedule gets much tougher, but the offensive line and Roethlisberger's last hurrah, I don't think it's going to end well. I wanted to bet this under. There's just a lot I don't like. I make it like 7-9. And people say, oh, Mike Tomlin has never finished with a losing record. He would have to do that for this to go under. Well, yeah, number one, this is a 17-game season. And in the past, the Steelers would just get 4 free wins against the Browns and Bengals. Now, they might still get 2 against the Bengals, but they would just beat those 4 free wins right off the bat. So it's a little different with the Browns being a better team now, and there's 17 games in the season. So, and look, the 17th game that they added was Seattle, which great. So I'm low on the Steelers this year, but I just don't make it low enough. The market was surprisingly sharp on them. So I'm staying away from their win total.
Yeah, it's a team. I mean, if you're leaning one way or the other, I think you got to go under because, again, it has that magic recipe, which is everything looks good on paper. Enough looks good, but then you look at that O-line, and that's usually the thing that is not priced in correctly. Sean, what do you think of the Steelers?
Yeah, I think there's plenty of reasons to be bearish on them. Stuckey laid most of them out, but despite being a 12-win team, I had them playing closer to a 9.5 win team last year, thanks in part to that 7-2 one-score game record. They had the 5th best injury luck, and yeah, they had the 2nd easiest schedule last season, and now they have the 2nd hardest this season. So I think 8.5 looks low. Just looking at this team on paper, they do seem like a winning football team, but yeah, 8.5 sounds about right, especially the under juiced up to -160. It's a pass for me. The offensive line could be an issue. However, Big Ben did get rid of the ball quick last year. 2.3 seconds time to throw was the fastest in the NFL. So maybe the offensive line doesn't impact him as much. But it could prevent them from being a more balanced offense with Najee Harris this year if they can't block for him. So they could be pass heavy again this year. And who knows if Big Ben can hold up for another season. So I think it's a good line. The defense and Mike Tomlin, I think, give this team a high floor. So if they do finish under, it'll probably be 8 wins exactly. So this is a stay away for me.
Yeah, the other thing is, though, with that, last year, all they did is Roethlisberger would sit in shotgun, snap it, and then throw it. And they have good receivers, but it's so hard to move the ball that way. Now, they do bring in Matt Canada as offensive coordinator, and I think that they're going to try to do more play action, more motion, which is a good thing. And you had Najee Harris in the backfield. But if you're trying to do that with an offensive line, that could be a complete mess. I mean, it could get really ugly. You mentioned some of the potential injury regression. They have penalty regression. They have turnover regression. They're +8 and +9 the past 2 years. So there's a lot of things that could just work against Pittsburgh this year. A lot of variables, turnovers, injuries. So yeah, I'm low on them, but not enough value to play an under here.
Yeah, they seem to be just kind of conceding the fact that their O-line is going to be bad. First with that pass game, with that quick release from Roethlisberger and the good receivers running the short routes. And then they go out and get Najee Harris, who is kind of a specialist at running behind, getting yards where there's not there and kind of covering for his O-line and getting things after contact. So they're going to try to make this work. I don't know how long they hold up, but it's a fascinating team because it's like the classic, good on paper team, except if you just totally ignore offensive line. You're like, oh, they got great receivers and a quarterback who's, at least been decent in his career, and the defense is good. It's like they have this rookie running back who was drafted highly, but man, that O-line could be very, very bad. So yeah, definitely wouldn't go over with them. I'm fascinated though. I think they're the team I'm watching the most in this division.
A positive regression piece to get on the good side of Steelers fans, if they stop dropping balls.
Yeah.
I mean, their drop problem was massive last year. So that, when you're trying to move the ball with short passes down the field, a drop here and there it absolutely kills you.
Yeah. Deontay Johnson, Eric Ebron, I remember were the main culprits of that. So we'll see what happens with them. The Cincinnati Bengals, 6.5 is the win total. It's evenly juiced on both sides. Sean, Joe Burrow entering year 2. A lot of people thought maybe they should have gone with Penei Sewell on the O-line instead of drafting Joe Burrow's college buddy in Jamar Chase. So this tells me they're committed to this pass game. They averaged 40 attempts per game with Burrow last year. What do you think of this Bengals team?
Yeah, so the offensive line should be shaky this year, and this is not the division you want to have a shaky O-line. I mean, they have to face the Ravens, Steelers, and Browns twice. So imagine if their offensive line falls apart. That's going to be tough. But, I think having Burrow and that solid trio of wide receivers and Joe Mixon should be good enough to put up points and at least keep them competitive. Last year they only won 4 games, but I have them, estimated closer to a 7.3 win team. And that was with Joe Burrow out the final 6 games. And some courts, they had Brandon Allen and Ryan Finley combined the last 6 games, and they still played decent. And they went 1-5 in one-score games. So they are due for some positive regression. And their defense is fairly solid. They probably overpaid for Trey Hendrickson, but they should be pretty solid up front with Sam Hubbard and DJ Reader. The cornerback group is a rebuild But early reports out of camp is Uzier, Waynes, and Hilton are doing a good job covering this solid trio of receivers. So there's some optimism there. 6.5 isn't that high of a number that we have a 17 game schedule this year. So this is probably a pass for me. But if I had to lean one way, it'd probably be the over at the Bengals. I think they are trending in the right direction. The only real question mark is the offensive line. So that's probably why I'm passing on this.
Like, what do you think of the Bengals? Because like the O-line, we think of it as, this is going to be a problem area. We remember what happened to Burrow last year. It just seemed like the lasting image was him just going down, and it finally ended the season. But I mean, they have Jonah Williams and Riley Reif on the outside. That could be a decent tackle duo, and Hopkins could be okay at center. The guards are still question marks, but like, is this line going to be their downfall, or is it passable?
I mean, their line stinks. I mean, we're trying to put lipstick on a pig with Riley Reif. But I mean, I think that, Jonah Williams has shown some promise at left tackle, but the rest of the offensive line is a mess. And look, it's just basically Burrow back there. There's no play action. There's no motion in this offense. And he's good. He can sling it, but he's getting hit so much. Can he stay healthy for the whole season? It's a major question. It's just a dumpster fire organization overall. It's been a dumpster fire for when was the last time you remember the Bengals being good? I mean, Marvin Lewis days. This is a team that they don't do anything right from an organizational perspective. They never draft right. They never spend when they should. Just a cheap dumpster fire organization. Their linebackers are trash too.
Every year. It seems like you say that every year. They're like the team they're going to give up running back receptions and tight end catches and all that stuff.
I mean, they'll give up. I mean, how many points are they going to give up to the Ravens again this year? That'll get ugly. So I think Hendrickson, Hendrickson's the classic Bengals buy. Now if Lawson didn't go, maybe he doesn't get hurt because he would have been a different, I don't know. He obviously wouldn't, but maybe he gets hurt in Cincy. But that was the classic Bengals buy. They buy a guy he was just the benefit of a bunch of sacks on a team that had a million great defensive ends on an elite defense. So I don't love their corners. I know there's been some good reports, but we'll see if they hold up. It's good safeties. Their special teams have been pretty good. And if Burrow could stay healthy, they're going to score and they're going to be in games. They're going to give up points. I make this like right on the win total. Their schedule gets harder this year. They are due for some positive regression. They get 9 home games. I don't even know if people still go to Bengals games. Does that even matter? But this is a pure pass for me. It's tough with Burrow in that division with that offensive line against the Ravens team that just blitzes everybody and can cover on the outside. A Steelers team that's one of the best pressure teams in the NFL. You got to deal with Myles Garrett, and it's tough. So hopefully for our viewing pleasure, he can stay healthy for 17 games, but it's going to be tough. And maybe they'll invest in. I mean, he has a lot of talent. He's one of the best young receiving cores in the NFL. So they'll be fun to watch if he can stay upright and stay healthy. But it's a pass for me. I'm at like 6-3. Tougher schedule this year.
Yeah, and I like the quarterback. I like the skill positions. Kind of like the Steelers, I guess. Well, not with the quarterback, but I have to look at the coach too, because you mentioned the organization, and I hadn't, I guess, thought of them in that light as like just a garbage dumpster fire organization. That's like, those are strong words, but I do kind of struggle to find anything to hang my hat on with Zach Taylor. I mean, I know he got kind of dealt a rough hand with some of the quarterback injuries, and he's been starting some guys that are true backups or just not really top 32 NFL starters over his tenure. But if you're betting on the Bengals to get 7 wins, that's more than Zach Taylor has in 32 games as a head coach. He's 6-25-1. So like, I can't bring myself to do that, especially in a division where, the third best team is the Steelers, who may still find some way to win 9 games and have one of the best defenses in the league. So the Bengals would be a under for me, not even just because of the offensive line, but it's just kind of a mix of there's the schedule, the O-line, and the fact that we don't really have anything with Zach Taylor to make us confident that he can go and beat Tomlin and Harbaugh and now Stefanski. That division makes it so tough on Cincinnati.
Yeah, they better go to, if you want to bet this over win total, they better go on the road, which is never easy in the NFL, and beat the Lions and beat the Jets. Because if you don't win those games, week 7 at Baltimore, then Browns at Raiders, Steelers, Chargers, 49ers at Denver, Baltimore, Chiefs at Browns. Like, if they don't get some early wins, Jacksonville at home, the Vikings at home is winnable to start the year. It's the back half of the schedule is brutal.
All right, before we get out of here on the Action Network NFL betting podcast sponsored by BetMGM, let's just do a quick recap of these two divisions, your strongest overlean and your strongest underlean. Sean, I'll start with you.
So my favorite over here is the Buffalo Bills over 11.5 wins at plus 120. I love the continuity of this year. I don't think we're going to see much regression at all from Josh Allen. So love the over there. And then my favorite under is probably the Dolphins under 9.5 wins at plus 115. I don't really think that Tua is going to have a big year 2 leap that people think. They added a ton of weapons, but the jury is still out on Tua. So I'm not willing to bet the over here.
Doc, what about you?
Yeah, I'll say my favorite, instead of an over, I'm going to go Bills future, whether that's Super Bowl or AFC. I like the upside, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the division. If everything works out with Tua, if everything works out, things work out with Zach Wilson, if everything works out with the Patriots, that's 6 of their games. That could swing a game or two. So I prefer the upside of this team. I love their coaching staff. I think Josh Allen is going to continue to progress. I think the defense is going to improve. Everything in the second half of last year, interior offensive line improvement, that defensive improvement, you get your nose tackle back, everyone kind of flows through natural positions. I think that carries over to this year. I agree with Kerner on the Dolphins under. I think this team is a year away with their offensive line, with Tua. You could argue this is basically year 1 for him, coming off of an injury. He had also COVID year. He's splitting time with Fitzpatrick. Dolphins got very fortunate last year in the turnover department. I think there's some regression coming there. I like some of the weapons they added. They're a well-coached team, but I have this closer to, 8-6, 8-7. So I think Dolphins year away by the upside of the Bills.
For me, I'm going with the Browns on the over. I just struggle to find a big hole in their roster, and their offensive line, 1 through 5, I think is one of the best in the league, and that's all Baker Mayfield needs to have success. And you're getting some guys back from injury like Odell Beckham. So I think the future is looking real bright for Cleveland this year, especially with Pittsburgh on the decline. And my favorite under is the Cincinnati Bengals under 6.5. I just think that when you combine the potentially shaky O-line, getting your franchise quarterback hit with a coach that really you have nothing to hang your hat on with a 6-25 record, and then you're playing 3 tough teams within a division with 3 tough defenses, I just think it's going to be too much to overcome for the Cincinnati Bengals team. So like them under 6.5. That is going to do it for this episode of the Action Network NFL Betting Podcast. As a reminder, we will have new episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this season after Labor Day, featuring Stuckey and I, of course, on our flagship 6-pack episode, plus our guys Brandon Anderson and Raheem Palmer. You can find Sean Kerner on Twitter at @_oddsmaker. You can find Stuckey at Stuckey2, and you can find me at Chris Raybon. You can also find us at those same handles in the Action Network app, the award-winning Action Network app, I might add. Next time, we'll be back with the AFC South and the AFC West. Until then, let's get this shmoney.